YouTube, it's time we finally talked about this. About how Daigo is officially the #1 ranked player in Street Fighter 6 online. This is from Defeatly a couple days ago. Daigo the Beast TV, #1 in the MR system, the Master Rate system introduced into Street Fighter 6. I talked about it a few times on this channel. It's very cool to see that for the first time ever, the online rank, the #1 person online ranked is the #1 person in our hearts. It's very rare to see actual, like, competitively successful top level players be ranked #1 online in a Street Fighter game, because normally the online ranks are kind of superfluous and don't really mean too much at the top competitive level. And then you have Daigo the Beast here, people like Bonchan, and and then there's Bananakin sandwiched between them. Shout out to Bananakin, super strong fighting game player for a long time, and super nasty JP, who I like to copy all my tech from. But we're starting to see a little bit of a pattern already with these characters. There might be some familiar faces to the Street Fighter community in these rankings here. And then we go here. The Street Fighter Twitter has officially put out some of the top character usage stats for the past month. And in Rookie, we see a couple of interesting characters, then Iron to Gold and Platinum to Master. There's one character that sticks out the most here if you pay close attention. But let's keep going. Maybe you'll start to notice the pattern. Remember Evo? That was a big tournament. Grand Finals, amazing event. Angry Bird versus Mena RD. There we go. We have them throwing down here. And wait, is that Ken again? Ken again? Angry Bird winning Evo, rocking his signature Ken there. But then fast forward to a week later, who do we have? We have Kakadu with his JP, amazing JP, probably the best in the world by far, up against Angry Bird. This time, Kakadu actually takes the set and wins Gamers 8. But we see Angry Bird back in the hot seeding Grands Finals with his Ken. And okay, that's interesting. And then here's the second online CPT premiere event where Kusanagi qualified with his amazing Ken. And in Grand Finals as well, he's going up against Grand Totokai with JP. So yes, we're starting to see definitely a pattern here of lots of Ken and lots of JP being represented at the highest competitive level. Kusanagi is now qualified for Capcom Cup with Ken, and so has Angry Bird with his Ken from Evo. And the only non-Ken player currently qualified for Capcom Cup would be Travis Styles out of Australia, who qualified by using a combo of Chun-Li and Jury. So yeah, there has been plenty of character representation with these characters. In fact, here's another Capcom event, a World Warrior tournament where some scrub JP player couldn't even win in Grand Finals and somehow let Blanca win instead. So JP is definitely all over the place, as well as Ken. He might not be winning every event, might be getting second a lot, but he's being represented as well. And we have some more stats to back this up. This is from Tega, who broke down the top 96 character representation from Evo. We had 14 JPs and 13 Kens in the top 96. The next tier was 10 with Luke and Jury. Then it starts to, trickle down from that point forward. But Ken and JP clearly cut above the rest in terms of representation at Evo. And it's not just that. F Champ Ryan here, he also broke down the character representation for the top 100 and top 500 MR. So that master rate system, we saw Daigo at the top. It goes to show that the master rate is a little bit more effective than LP was at showing who is the top skilled players on the planet. Top 100 MR, 16 Kens, 14 JPs, then 11 Camis. So there's that drop off right there. Top 500 MR, starting at 1810 MR, 54 Kens, 53 JPs, then 49 Camis, and down from there. And then in the in the top 100, I don't think there's any Ryus, or there's one Ryu, one Rashid, one Lily. Very little character representation there in the top 100. But clearly, Ken and JP are represented a little bit more highly at the top level. I'm honestly surprised at how represented Cammy is. I didn't think she was that popular at the high ranked level. I didn't really notice that personally, but we're starting to clearly see a trend here in terms of the character representation in Street Fighter 6, which goes to beg the question, is the game currently balanced, and are Ken and JP really the problems of the game? I personally, as a completely unbiased JP player, think that maybe a little. I think Ken and JP are definitely a cut above the majority of the cast. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because it's such a huge storm on Twitter. People are complaining so much about these characters to an unbelievable degree where I think something gets a little bit lost in the sauce. I definitely think Ken and JP are super strong and are definitely better than a lot of the other characters, but better to the point where they completely carry people who have never won a tournament or never been able to compete ever. No, not really. But I do think that there is an argument to be made about the health of a competitive game when things become a little bit too centralized around certain characters. So the spectator experience is very important to me in terms of competitive Street Fighter. I want people to be engaged with the game and care about watching. If the game becomes too much just Ken versus JP, I do think that will hurt the perspective of the game from a lot of the people watching it who would maybe then go on to play the game. And if they see only Ken JP matches and mirrors, they might not want to play the game too much. That said, also for the players playing it, they continuously run into the same characters over and over. I think that variety also hurts the playing experience. So I do think balance considerations are important to be made for those people, not just the top competitive level. However, we also see at the top competitive level that these characters are very represented as well. JP especially gets the most hate, I think, because he is extremely easy to start being effective with, but also at the top level, he has like the most open-ended combo conversions and mix-up. I think he's an incredibly technical character, but the problem is his level 1 game plan is very straightforward and easy. So like 95% of the character is super easy and super powerful. That last 5% that you try to master, there's so much to master there, but you don't even need to do it to be like decent with the character. So I get why he gets a lot of hate for that sense. And then Ken, on the other hand, he just has all the offensive tools you could ever ask for. The most well-rounded Street Fighter 6 character in the game by far, in my opinion. So yeah, I think they're a little bit better than most of the cast and could potentially use some nerfs to help make the game a little bit more evenly spread in terms of character usage. If that means it's going to be a healthy viewing and player experience for people of all ranks, because the vast majority of the player base is not the tournament level players. They're mostly players from, iron to gold. That's where the vast majority of the player base lives. That said, I do think there is something to be said about people who solely blame their loss on these characters or on characters being too strong. There's no character in Street Fighter 6 that is so strong that you can't learn to beat them with your character. And if you are currently not at the rank that you want, you're below master rank and you are in a platinum rank or you're somewhere in gold, there are things that you could do right now that have nothing to do with other characters where you could review your own replays and instantly start to improve. I promise you, I have resources on the channel to maybe help out with that. We'll do more Q&As to help with that. But the boogeyman of the top tier character is not why you are currently not reaching whatever ranked goals you may want to achieve. If you want to win EVO, win Gamers 8, qualify for Capcom Cup, then yes, these characters might be a problem. You might have to switch to a character that is playing the Street Fighter 6 meta effectively. In fact, I made a list here of characters I think are playing Street Fighter 6 versus not playing Street Fighter 6. This isn't a tier list, kind of just a general grouping. So the kind of playing Street Fighter 6 group, I feel like they're kind of in between. And then there's the not playing Street Fighter 6 group, who I feel are not utilizing the systems effectively. And I think by systems, what I really mean is drive rush. I think if you have a strong drive rush that either goes far, travels fast, and you have strong normals to end your drive rush with, you are using drive rush effectively. You also need to be able to stop drive rush effectively. So I think the characters in the not playing Street Fighter 6 category don't really use drive rush or stop drive rush that well, so they are kind of at the whim of other people using these mechanics. And as you can see by my grouping, I think there's a lot of characters. I think almost half the cast plays the game well. So I think that general balance is pretty good overall. But if you're a competitive player and you're in the not playing Street Fighter 6 category, I think it behooves you in this moment to switch to a character that is playing Street Fighter 6 more effectively. Does that mean Street Fighter 6's balance is bad? No, I don't think so. That's just fighting games. Fighting games have always required the strongest players to play strong characters to beat the strongest competition, because the skill margins at the top level are razor thin. You need that 0.001% advantage that you get by playing a marginally stronger character or a character with a better matchup than your opponent, right? It's just the nature of the game. So I don't think that's indicative of the game's balance being bad whatsoever, but these are kind of some general thoughts I have on the meta. And in fact, we have some other informed thoughts here from one Ending Walker. If you don't know Ending Walker, 16-year-old player who burst onto the scene in 2022. He got 4th place at Capcom Cup, the last Capcom Cup for Street Fighter V. He just got fourth place at Versus Fighting, a 500-man major in the UK, using mostly Ryu in this tournament. So he knows a thing or two about playing mid-tier in Street Fighter 6. And he had these tweets, which I thought were very, very informed. Today has made me realize that character strength is important, but not imperative. I think it's almost universally agreed Ryu is mid-low tier. If you work really hard, you can still do well at events. Pick the character you enjoy and shine. Having said that, I'm a Ken main now. So, kind of a humorous way to structure this, but he makes a really good point here, and he summarizes that by saying, what I'm basically saying, if you're willing to work harder, you can always win with any character. Don't worry about tiers unless you only want to win. If you're playing because you love the game, but also want to win, then play the character you love and work hard for the result. And I think this is absolutely spot on. If you are playing for your own personal satisfaction, I guarantee you can beat 99% of players on the planet by playing the worst character in the game. Remember, Snake Eyes streams regularly playing Zangief, who is definitely bottom tier in Street Fighter 6, and he beats 99.9999% of players free. So I always like to preface tier discussions by saying, whatever character you are using and struggling with, until you are like really at the peak of the game, you can do more with your character and win more. I promise you, playing a low tier character is not the reason why you're stuck in gold or whatever rank you're in. You can switch to a more top tier character like a Ken or a JP and for sure start jumping in ranks, but you're still going to plateau very hard and you're not going to patch up any fundamental flaws that you might have with your gameplay, which are the true source of why you're unable to reach whatever goal that you're trying to achieve. If you're trying to then at that point go on to win extremely stacked competitive events, yes, you will have to pick the best tool for the job. You might consider switching, which is what Ending Walker is doing here. He's switching to Ken. Ken is definitely much stronger than Ryu right now in Street Fighter 6, and he is an incredibly strong player already and is looking to beat the strongest players in the world. So him switching to Ken absolutely makes sense, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing to do, and I don't think that's unique to Street Fighter 6. But I like this point about how he says if you want to play the game, play the character you love, you can work harder and make it happen. Because what do you know? We just saw a Kimberly main win the Japanese World Warrior event with 628 players participating. This is the largest World Warrior event in the most competitively dense region on the planet, with the best players on the planet in attendance. And a Kimberly player, Oniki, won over the likes of Fujimura with Ken, Fenrich with JP, Ryusei and Uzuda, Kakadu here. This is Uzuda is Kakadu. People were just saying he's the best player in the world a couple weeks ago, and look, he's only getting 7th place in this tournament in Japan with JP. And yeah, Oniki used Kimberly to an amazing effect, 3-0 in that grand final set. And he showed that a character that I even put in the kind of playing Street Fighter 6 category can still win a super stacked tournament. And this is a stacked tournament. Like, all your favorites are in this bracket. Momochi got 25th. Aqua Goichi's in there. Fudo, Daigo, Bonchen, Mago, Tokido, Moge, Nemo. These players were present and did not place as high as Oniki, who won the whole event. And also, Kichipa is here with Zangief. He actually eliminated Daigo in this tournament using Zangief and got 5th place. So there is still more juice to squeeze out of the Street Fighter 6 meta. Don't think it's solved right now that Ken and JP are absolutely unbeatable. Of course, look, there's 2 Kens and 3 JPs in this top 8. They're very strong. We know that much. Just don't think they're unbeatable, or don't think that you can't do great things with your character, and don't think that you are unable to progress because of the top tier boogeyman holding you down. I guarantee you there's more work you can do. That said, I also wanted to speak to the people who are currently using the Public Enemy #1 characters like JP or Ken. I have been in this position before. Here I am, a fresh young face in the FGC relatively, at Combo Breaker 2017 top 8. I'd already put Sako and losers in top 96. I fought through a lot of other top players, beat many strong players on the way, and here we are in losers quarters playing for top 8. And I managed to secure the run back against Sako, and I double jeopardied Sako, the highest placing non-American in this bracket, and I proceeded to move on, and I ended up getting 4th place in this tournament. And I wanted to harken back to this moment because this was a moment where I had finally saw the fruits of my labor pay off. I had been grinding Street Fighter for 7+ years at this moment. I had put out tons of guides for the characters that I played. I had been producing content. I had been streaming regularly for like 2 or 3 years at this moment, and I attended tons of local events in Florida where I was actually able to drive to these events, crash on hotel room floors, do whatever it took Well, I was a broke college student to make it happen. I had a little bit of cash in my pocket, was able to fly out to tournaments, and Capcom made my character extremely top tier at the time. Season 2 Balrog was busted. And finally, I had a big top 8 performance. And you know what I got? I got hate. That's what I saw. People were saying, who is this guy who came out of nowhere using broken Balrog, and screw him and his Lego man hair, right? So I finally saw success on the big stage, and I thought maybe people would respect that I'd been on the grind and I would finally earn the respect of my peers. And instead, I didn't get any of that. And for a while, it stung a little. I was a little bit upset because I thought at that point I was one of the underdogs, right? I'd finally taken some sets off the top players, some sponsored pros from people from all over the world, and I didn't get the respect of the peers which I had been seeking. And that proceeded for the rest of the season, and since then, I earned more credit as time went on, and I had some level of consistency with my results and presence in the scene. But since then, there's always been haters left and right. I get it all the time, every day. There's people in my YouTube comments who tell me all the time that I would never win if it wasn't for JP. They have never looked at a tournament result in their life, and they don't have any perspective on what I am or what I've done in the FGC. But it's just how it is. So if you're currently a player who is feeling under pressure or feeling antagonized by the community for playing a top tier character, remember, you don't balance the game. You pick what you want to play. And you know what you can say to those people who are giving you a hard time? Fuck them. They can pick a better tool for the job just like you can. You made a great choice and you gelled with the top tier character, and you're going to do what you can to win, just like they're going to do what they can to win. A lot of people who complain so vehemently about top tier characters, there's honestly a psychological response where people want to shame people for using top tier characters because they want to put psychological pressure on you to either give up entirely or switch characters. And this has been shown time and time again. I've seen it across different gaming communities. I've seen it in the Guilty Gear community, for example. Players who play demonized top tier characters feel very demotivated and stop wanting to play the game because it stops being fun for them. Anytime they have any success, they are bemoaned by the community and they just feel shunned. So don't let that get to you. Remember, if you're playing a top tier character, enjoy it while you can. Capcom may or may not nerf your character at any moment. So just have fun with it and don't let the noise get to you, because it's absolutely noise, and it's done because you have become a threat to those players and they don't like that you're knocking on their doorstep. People will rationalize away your wins until you lose on their terms. So don't let them do that. Let them be salty and win with your top tier character. That said, that's all the thoughts I had on this situation here. Let me know what you guys think about the state of Street Fighter 6 balance. What do you think about Ken and JP? What do you think about playing top tier characters? And above all, have fun with the game. Catch you guys next time. Peace.